Welcome to whyisrael.org. We're talking today with Rabbi Chaim Eisen. Welcome, Chaim.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. You are a Torah-believing rabbi. I think you prefer to call yourself a Torah-believing rabbi rather than an Orthodox rabbi. You're teaching in Jerusalem. You come originally from New York. And you have a special interest in building relationships between Jews and Christians. And we're going to explore a little bit about that, why you're doing that and what the issues are. Perhaps I can just ask you firstly, why you prefer to call yourself Torah believing and not Orthodox? What's the difference?
There isn't any difference at all, frankly.
Okay.
The reason for the preference is Orthodox perpetuates a kind of compartmentalization, as if there are different brands of Judaism. Judaism is defined, after all, through our fidelity to God and to the traditions of the Torah that He conveyed to Israel, both in writing, in the text of the Torah at God's revelation at Sinai, and through the attendant oral tradition that God gave us as well. I prefer using the term Torah believing because I think it is a more apt description of that than perpetuating this sense of a compartmentalization that there are those who accept the Torah and those that do not. There may be people who are more or less observant, but Judaism is defined through the integrity of that tradition and our fidelity to it.
Okay, it's interesting because so often we have this perception from the outside, Jews often have labels put on them. You have secular Jews, you have Reformed Jews, you have Orthodox Jews or liberal Jews, you have ultra-Orthodox Jews. But you're saying that's maybe a slightly artificial distinctions.
Yeah, I think in practice we should recognize that historically these distinctions emerged in the 19th century. Essentially as a reaction to the establishment of a movement labeled the Reform movement that broke away from the Torah tradition, and we certainly regard the breaking away as a tragedy with respect to our actualizing the mission that God gave Israel for the world. So again, I think it's more helpful for us to go back to the roots and recognize that Judaism is defined in terms of fidelity to God and His Torah. And of course, inevitably, we all as individuals strive to live up to that mandate to the best of our ability.
Okay. Now the Torah is not just the law, is it? It's not limited to the law given to Moses. The Torah is all the 5 books of what we call the first 5 books of the Old Testament. Is that right?
It's an excellent question, and inevitably the complexity here is that Jews have a tendency to use the term Torah in a number of different contexts.
Okay.
That is, in the most basic sense, we apply the term Torah as you expressed it to the 5 books of Moses, the first section of Hebrew Scriptures. In a broader sense, we often employ the designations written Torah and oral Torah to pertain respectively to the entirety of Hebrew Scriptures, which is the written component, and the oral tradition that is complementary to it and concomitant to it, that provides us with the actual basis for application of the principles of the written Torah in our lives on an ongoing basis.
Okay. But and the Psalms and the prophets, are they part of the Torah?
So again, of course, it depends on the formulation that we use.
Yeah, okay.
If we're using it in the restrictive sense of the 5 books of Moses, of course, that would apply specifically to the Torah as opposed to the components of Hebrew Scripture that we label in Hebrew, Nevi'im and Ketuvim, in English, prophets and hagiographa or holy writings. But of course, to the extent that we apply the term more expansively to the corpus of written scripture, it applies to all of Hebrew Scripture.
Yeah.
I should just stress as an additional point that Torah often is rendered in English as law. The Hebrew literally means teaching, which I think is a crucially different focus than the more restrictive law. Undoubtedly, the Torah teaches us law, but it teaches us something far broader than that. It provides us with a way of life, a sense of mission, a role to play in the world, with respect to the world, in actualizing God's mission for us and for the world through our lives.
Okay. Well, that leads us on really to the next question is the Torah only for the Jewish people? Or does it have a broader application?
Well, I suppose my short answer to that question would be yes. In the sense that the Torah, as a binding way of life, we believe is given to the nation of Israel by God at the revelation of Sinai, complementary to the covenant that God made with the patriarchs of Israel, upon the basis of which he gave the nation the Torah at Sinai. There is the covenant that God made with Noah, for all of his descendants, comprising, of course, all of humanity. That covenant provides the baseline of spirituality for the entire world, and the basis for the entire world, for all of humanity, attaining personal salvation and contributing to the ultimate redemption and salvation of the entire world. In that vein, of course, we regard the Torah as that which God gave Israel, but God gave the Torah to Israel, as he states explicitly in Exodus, in the prelude to the Revelation, in chapter 19, in verses 5 and 6, in order to make Israel into a kingdom of priests and a holy nation for the sake of educating the world, to provide the entire world with this basis for its personal salvation in the 7 Noahide laws that God bequeathed to all of humanity, and through that message of spiritual self-actualization that Israel is charged to inculcate in the entire world.
Okay. Well, next time I think we'll come back to this issue of the role of Israel and the Jewish people in world redemption and the salvation of the world. Thank you very much, and we look forward to coming back next time.
Thank you.